Good morning, 7F. How are you doing? Did you do anything fun yesterday? Hope you did. Today we're going to look at something called powers. So our title for today, let's write it down, is powers. So what are powers? Well, not superpowers, but knowing math does give you superpowers because you feel smart. Powers, or another word for powers called indices. Well, I can't spell. Indices, indices, are used to write expressions with repeated multiplication. So, for example, say we want to go 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's very, very long to say it, and it's very time consuming. So a shorter way of writing 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is using index notation, because I keep multiplying, repeatedly multiply 2. So on the bottom, the base number is 2. Now, how many times are we multiplying 2 by itself? 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7, 2. So we're multiplying the 2 by itself 7 times. So on the top right corner of this number 2, I'm going to write a small 7 because I'm multiplying 2 by itself 7 times. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So it's 2 to the power of 7 because I'm multiplying by itself 7 times. Now I want to emphasize again, you don't write, so you write 2, and on the top right corner you write the power, which is how many times you multiply that number by. You don't write with the same size. It's not like 27, that's bad. It's not 2 to the 7 with a big 7, that's also bad. It's definitely 2 to the power of 7 with a smaller size 7 in the top right corner. Okay? So that is what we call powers. So, or indices. So this here, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times, I've lost count how many 2's I've just said. This is what we call expanded form, because you are literally writing out every single 2 you're multiplying by. This 2 at the bottom is called the base number because you're multiplying the number 2 by itself. So the base number is 2. This tiny small 7 in the top right corner is called the index, or sometimes people call it the power, or even sometimes you might hear people call it the exponent. They all mean the same thing, the power, how many times you multiply the base number by itself. Now, when you actually work out what 2 to the 7 is, what 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is, so 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 16 times 2 is 32, and that times 2 is 64, and 64 times 2 is 128. So if you actually work out 2 times 2, 7 by itself 7 times, you get 128. And so this answer version of 2 to the 7 is what we call the basic numeral. So when you actually work out what 2 to the power of 7 is, we say that that's a basic numeral. So to pronounce this thing, we say this is 2 to the power of 7. So base number 2 to the power of 7, because it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times itself 7 times. There are specific ways of saying powers. So for example, 2 times 2, so 2 to the power of 2, we say this is 2 squared, 2 to the power 2. So it's kind of like centimeters squared when we're doing the units for area, right? If you have 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2 to the power of 3, the special word, like volume, is called 2 cubed. And then anything higher, we just say 2 to the power of whatever number your power is. Right, so the next key idea is, well, in the world of BOMDAS, remember how there's order of operations? What is where is powers in BOMDAS? Well, the O in BOMDAS stands for order, which is also another word for powers. Okay, so what this means is, when you do order of operations, you always do any brackets first. Then if you see any powers, you do the powers next. Then you do multiplying and dividing from left to right. Remember, BOMDASA, always left to right. And then you do addition and subtraction from left to right. So this powers or indices, that's the O out of BOMDAS. Here's some other fun facts. Fun facts. Any number to the power of 1 is itself. So any number to the power of 1 is itself. So for example, 2 to the power of 1. So you just 2. That's it. So 2. 0 to the power of 1 is just 0, because you just 0 times nothing else. Another fun fact, any number to the power of 0 is 1, except 0, because 0 to the 0 is not, you can't do that, it's undefined, we don't get an answer. So for example, 2 to the power of 0 is 1. For now, just accept that this magical pattern. When you get to year 9, year 10, when you do more index power notation, you'll be able to understand why anything to the power of 0 is 1, except 0. 5 to the power of 0 is 1, and 0 to the power of 0 is what we call undefined, because you don't have a mathematical answer for that. So what is the point of index notation, writing powers? Later on in year 9 and 10, and even in science, when we do more complicated examples, index notation is just an easy way to write really, really big numbers or really, really small numbers. And this is something what we call scientific notation, and which we do in year 9. So look forward to that in 2 years' time. Another thing to note are common mistakes from students in exams. So I'll write this in a different color. Many students in exams think that 2 cubed, or 2 to the power of 3, is the same as 2 times 3. It is not the same. It is not equal. Why? Well, what does 2 cubed gives us? Well, 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, because it's cubed 2 times itself 3 times, once, twice, 3 times. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. But what about 2 times 3? 2 times 3 gives us 6. Okay, so powers, yes, powers is multiplying, but you're multiplying the number by itself. You're not multiplying the number with the power. So be really, really careful. 2 to the power of whatever, it's 2 times itself, the 2, that same base number, however many times in the power, whereas 2 times 3 is literally just multiplying the two numbers 2 times 3. So make sure you don't make that mistake on the exam.